Unlike Bon Jovi, we're actually about 3/4 of the way there by now. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife and today I am taking the end of year book tag. Because 2024 is rounding off to a close, it feels like now is the perfect time to make some plans for the next couple of months and maybe take a look at what is going to happen in 2025. This tag was created by Ariel and it's something that I have seen done so many times. But for a really long time, I thought that it was something that you actually made around November, December. So I think this is going to be one of my first times actually doing this tag at the right time. Starting with question 1, are there any books that you still need to finish by the end of the year? And honestly, not really. I try not to leave books on such a long finger for a really long time. I'll try to finish them pretty soon after I started them, or I will just DNF it if I'm not enjoying it. I'm not the kind of person who will genuinely keep a book going for months and months. I'm just a little bit tidier with my currently reading than I am with any of the other shelves that I have on Goodreads. Question 2 is, do you have any autumnal books that are going to transition you into the end of the year reading? I am not a very spooky person. I don't like a lot of horror books. I don't like a lot of very heavy gore. So when it comes to like autumnal and Halloween reading, I am much more on the spoopy side. For me, that means books like A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon by Sarah Hawley, which is about a witch named Ariel who accidentally summons a demon in a spell gone wrong, or The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, or The Ex-Hex. I'm very much into those kind of fantastical romances that are not super fantastical. They're more sort of cozy fantasy than anything. I'd also really love to try out The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Laurie Gilmore. I've heard that this is really heavily inspired by Stars Hollow and by Gilmore Girls. I haven't started my yearly rewatch of Gilmore Girls yet, but I feel like this is going to be the perfect thing to do in tandem. Start reading this book and start watching Gilmore Girls again and just dive headfirst into autumn. Question 3, is there a new release that you are still waiting for? And I finally have it. As soon as Think Again by Jacqueline Wilson was announced, I knew that this was a book I wanted to get. This is following Ellie, Nadine and Magda, who were the main characters in the Girls series, so Girls in Love, Girls in Tears, Girls Out Late. And Jacqueline Wilson is one of the authors that I read the most when I was a child. I had so many of her books personally, and I used to get so many of them others out from the library as well, that when I heard that she was writing a book for adults for the first time, I knew that as soon as it came out, I had to have it. This is following Ellie a little bit later on in her life. She's now approaching her 40s and things are not going as she would have wanted them to. And I am so excited to see what the girls are actually getting up to a little bit later on than had we left them. Question 4 is, what are 3 books that you want to read before the end of this year? And the first book on that list is Bridgerton by Julia Quinn. I would really like to get started on the 8 books in the series that are in my possession. One of my friends sent all 8 books to me in the summertime and I promised her that I would get them started, but I haven't actually done it yet. I know as well that Margaret from The Word Nerd has also read the first 4 in the series and she has given her opinions on them, pretty spoiler free. But I want to actually be able to have a conversation with her about what these books are, and I'd like to start watching the TV show. I am a little bit of a traditionalist and of a purist, and I cannot watch an adaptation if I haven't read the book yet. So I can't get into the Netflix series without having read any of the books, but I really need to start the books right now so that I can get starting it when the weather starts to turn. I'd also really like to prioritize My Favorite Mistake by Marian Keyes. This is Marian's most recent release. I think it came out in March or April of this year. And I have left it on the burner for such a long time compared to how quickly I read Marian's other books. I don't know if it's because I just haven't been in the form for something this big, because it's quite big in size and it's quite chunky in page count. I don't know if it's because the expectations are a little bit too high and what if I don't like it? What if I get a little bit disappointed by it? I don't know exactly what the reasoning is. It just hasn't gone on to any of my TBRs yet. But I am hopeful that by the end of this year, I will find the time and I will find the courage to just pick it off my shelf and read it. I think as well that October might be a really good time to read The Husbands by Holly Gramazio. This just sounds like such an interesting concept of a young woman who comes home from work one day and finds her husband waiting at the kitchen table for her, which is a little bit confusing because she's not actually married. And I feel like that kind of somewhat magical realism of her attic being like a revolving door of husbands, that kind of quirkiness, magical realism is going to be a really good thing for me to read in October. It's just got that level of the kind of otherworld and spookiness that I'm looking for without anybody's stomach coming out of their torso. Question number 5. Is there a book that you think could still surprise you and be one of your favorite reads of the year? I have got pretty high hopes for Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. I've never read a book by Riley Sager before, so I am really putting all my eggs in one basket with him, but I know a couple of people who have really enjoyed it. I know that Brie from Four Paws in a Book really loved it. I know that Jess from the Hex Library had a really great time with it. I think both of them gave it 4 and 5 stars respectively. And I am just so intrigued to see if Riley Sager is going to work for me. I know that a couple of books for them have been a little bit hit or miss, but this is going to be my very first Riley Sager book, and I've heard that this is a really good one to start with. It is about 2 boys who go out camping one night, and one of them wakes up the following morning alone in his tent. About 10 or 15 years later, he comes back to the small town trying to find out what happened to his best friend, and is taken about 9 different directions, none of which he actually expected to go in. Finally, question number 6. Do you have any plans for your reading for next year? I think I'm going to keep my reading goal around the same. I did 100 books this year, and I did 100 books last year, and this year feels like it's going to be a bit touch and go whether I actually make it at all. Last year was pretty good, but this year's reading has been really stagnant. It's been kind of hit and miss in a couple of places, so I think I need to keep it around that 100 mark. I've also brought in the idea that I want to make a ratings blanket for the first time. I've started really getting back into knitting in the last couple of months, and I feel like making something like a ratings blanket is going to be a really nice way to keep a kind of momentum of what I've been reading, but also something that I can look back on in a couple of years and think, this is a really nice way of remembering what books I read in 2025, why it was that I enjoyed them so much, and trying to put together, oh, which book was this line for and which book was this row for, trying to rejig my memory of what books could have been what color. Those are my answers to the end of year book tag. Have you got any plans for your end of 2024 reading? If you'd love to leave me a comment but you can't think of anything you'd like to say, then just leave me the calendar emoji just to remind us how little time we've got left in this year. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.